Welcome back. Really happy to see that I'm able to bump out a video every 2 months or so like I had planned. You know, I've spent the last few months working on a top-down Minecraft idea, and it looks pretty cool. Anyway, time to scrap it. Welcome to the Bored Pixel 8 Game Jam. Original idea, right? Nobody's ever made a video about a game jam before, and it's really lucky that I've got this idea before anyone else has. Okay, listen, it's just free content at this point, how can I not? The goal is to create a working game in a very short amount of time. For this particular game jam, we had about a week to create a game, with a few restrictions. Restriction 1, the game had to feature pixel art. This is the Bored Pixels jam after all. Restriction 2, the game had to feature a theme of "You are not the hero." You can interpret this statement however you want, just as long as it loosely relates to the statement. So now we have enough setup, let's get into actual development. 1 hour before the jam started, the theme was announced. I had 1 hour to plan out my ideas and then schedule my time. I had two main ideas at first. A puzzle game where you play as a villain trying to stop the hero from beating the level, and a game where you play as an NPC trying to go about your day while a superpowered villain and hero fight in the background, causing obstacles and hazards for you to avoid. Weighing up the pros and cons of both, I realized that the NPC idea would be so incredibly heavy on the art and animation side of things, and also wouldn't give much interesting gameplay, so villain puzzle game it is. I was listening to some MF Doom at the time, and he has that whole aesthetic of being a villain, so I really drew from that. The main character would thus be based on a sort of Doctor Doom look that seemed iconically villainous. From there, I used the animations I made for the villain as a template for the hero, for whom I designed to be kind of like a knight in shining armor. I then spent the next morning kind of no-lifing, creating sprites and animations, things like obstacles, animations, lava, crates, the floor. And now we begin the version part, the code. Now, my big brain decided that a behavioral tree was the best way for the hero's AI to work. For those who have sex and don't know what a behavioral tree is, it's essentially a long tree of if statements. The way that this works is really simple, so let me explain it for the mentally handicapped. By default, the hero will run to the right of the screen until it detects something that will change its behavior. For instance, if he detects a wall to his immediate right, he will turn left. If he sees an obstacle or a gap to his right, he will jump right. If he detects a cannonball, he will jump up over it. It's a pretty basic system, right? There's plenty of flaws to it, but it works for this 1 week game jam. Now the cannons are implemented at this stage, and the crusher is too. Well, the crusher actually crashes the game, but that's fine. It was at this point that I ran into my first major problem with my code: subpixels. For those unaware, games don't actually run off of pixels. Pixels are used mostly as a way to display things. In game development, subpixels are, you guessed it, space between pixels. No, you don't get a cookie for guessing that right, but you do get an ad. I'm starting to sell some pixel art assets on Itch.io. For now, I only have a small tree pack up for sale for the low price of about $1 US. If you need any pixel art assets in the future, keep an eye on the link in the description. You'll like what you see. Ads is something that I definitely need to get better at. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Subpixels. There is a significant problem with subpixels that really clashes with my collision system that I'm using. How my collision system works is that if the pixel below the hero is a solid object, the vertical velocity is set to 0. Otherwise, if there isn't a solid object 1 pixel below the hero, the vertical velocity will increase and he will fall. Pretty simple, right? But the issue arises when the velocity is set to a number that isn't whole, and this is really common because the rate that the velocity increases is a decimal number. When this happens, it means that the hero's Y value isn't a whole number either, meaning that the detection under his feet isn't perfect. If, for example, the hero is 0.1 pixels above the ground detection, it won't trigger, so the hero will fall for an extra frame, which will often leave him embedded inside the ground. Now, I had a very crude solution to this. Game developers, please cover your eyes for the next few seconds. Instead of perhaps refining the collisions or velocity system, I figured that the easiest solution would be to fix the hero getting stuck in the floor. So, if the hero detects ground below him and slightly above his feet, he will be pushed up every frame until he's no longer in the ground. Game developers, it's safe to open your eyes again, and I'm sorry. It was at this point that I decided to implement prop placing and prop physics. So now the player can actually set up levels. From there, I added some basic UI to show off the items you have and what number you need to press to access it. And then I spent the next day doing some bug fixing and making sure that the murder things actually murder now. Damn, I'm good at writing scripts for videos. Up to day 5 now, and we're approaching something close to a final product. The hero now runs to the end of the level, and you can place obstacles that can screw him over. What more could you want? Wait, you want more? Fine, well, now you can turn the cannons around. It does absolutely nothing in the levels I've made, but it's cool, I guess. Not cool enough. Well, how about the super sick and awesome and cool and original level background? Not enough. What about 7 of the best damned levels you've ever seen in your worthless life? That better be good enough, because I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. In fact, we're so short on content that we're already at day 6. Here is where the fun stuff begins though. The stuff that isn't game development. I needed 3 tracks at the minimum. A main menu track, a planning track, and a running track. And before continuing with this part of the video, I have a confession to make. I'm only recently getting into music, and I don't have very much skill with it yet. So, when I tell you that all I did was lay out a few notes, and then arpeggiate them in different ways, I have no shame in it. Music nerds be damned. The notes are essentially from a Rhodes piano with some reverb and compression, because that's just standard in music production. I also copied and pasted the video gamey bass melody on each of the tracks, and then wrote in a really basic drum pattern. Maybe it was out of laziness, but I really wanted the tracks to be simple and seem like it came out of a classic video game. And I'm pretty sure I got that. And now we get into the final day. This is where the polish happens. I made a logo by legit going into a Minecraft title generator and then making it into pixel art. My pixel art process is just so glamorous. I then took it upon myself to make some buttons and some tutorial items that I don't think I actually used. From there, I finished 2 more levels, polished some more things that I don't remember, did some basic bug testing with friends. I then stole some sound effects from freesounds.org and then unpacked version of Undertale. And then kaboom! We now have a finished game, my first ever finished game. This is what I submitted. And then a week or so later, we got our rankings. After a total of about 3 days and 12 hours of development, Dr. Castle's Villainy ranked in 13th place out of 135 entries. Certainly nothing to laugh at for a first finished game. This was a really fun experience. I was so motivated to completely no-life this every day. Now, the game obviously isn't perfect. There's no spawn protection for the hero, so you can literally just place things where he spawns and instantly kill him. As well as that, if you place a crate where he spawns, he glitches through the floor and falls for all eternity, but I'm sure he's fine. Probably.